Alrighty, so welcoming back everyone here on the Millennial Thermom YouTube and community. I wanted to just be able to spend some time with Roxana, and she's going to share a little bit about what she does. Sneak peek, it's about lactation and feeding. So, yeah, just wanted to give you this time first to just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Joanna, for letting me be here. My name is Roxana Chavez. I am, first and foremost, a mom to two beautiful babies, a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I am a first generation Mexican American Chicana. Both of my parents immigrated from Mexico. And professionally, I am an international board certified lactation consultant, which is super long name for lactation or IBCLC. I've been practicing for a little over 2.5 years, and I have my own private practice for feeding support. I've been working with pregnant, postpartum families and infant nutrition for a little over 7 years. And basically, what I do is I offer feeding support for all things related to lactation and also formula feeding. So, whether it's just breastfeeding, pumping, bottle feeding, whether it's breast milk, formula, a combination of the two, weaning, milk supply, introduction to solids, prenatal preparation. I offer in-home consults, in clinic consults here in San Diego, and also telehealth consults worldwide. So that's just a little bit about what I do.
Awesome. So you can literally work with like anybody, anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything related to eating and infant nutrition, yes, I can work with you.
Awesome. Awesome. How did you get to the point where like you were like, this is what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna help people feed their babies.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I have my bachelor's degree in nutrition. And I always knew I wanted to do something in the health field. I just didn't know what. And so during my college years, I thought I was going to go into dietetics, which is more, I guess I did end up in nutrition, but just a little different. And so after graduating, I started volunteering with the WIC program, which is the Women, Infants, and Children program over in Sacramento. And that's where I first started to really learn about breastfeeding, about lactation. And it was a few years later that my employer offered me the opportunity to get trained as a certified lactation educator counselor. When I took that course, it was revolutionary for me. It really redirected my whole career path. And that's when I decided that I wanted to be a lactation consultant. And so I started pursuing that. But prior to me becoming a lactation consultant, I had my first baby, and I had a good amount of challenges with her in the beginning. And it was that time that really grew my passion even more. And it just made me so much more empathetic about the challenges that we face in those early days and just in general when it comes to feeding. I think there's a lot of challenges, sometimes a lot of barriers. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel like breastfeeding, it's something that I don't know if it's internal expectations, external. You just feel like, oh, it's gonna happen naturally. I'm just gonna pop out my boob and the baby's just gonna know what to do. And for a lot of people, especially maybe those of us that are used to like, oh, I know how to get an A, I know how to get, good performance evals. All of a sudden, we suck at breastfeeding, and we internalize that, and it's like something's wrong with me. And
Oh my.
yeah, it doesn't help either that like when you're sleep deprived, it's harder to be kind to yourself when you're sleep deprived.
I think, sometimes we have these like societal expectations and then personal expectations. And I feel like there's just a lot of pressure associated with feeding and what success means for that. And there's also a lot of misinformation and sometimes lack of support. But those early days are just so hard with a newborn, especially, if it's your first or if you don't have enough support. So, like you said,
Mhm.
sleep deprivation, like, and then our hormones, right? Our hormones shift
Mhm.
huge, and that doesn't help. So,
Yeah.
um, definitely be pretty difficult.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember back to like those first few months for me personally, and going down like the Facebook doom scrolling, right? And seeing how just all the different advice about feeding and pumping, and then the milk hacks and the people having gallons of milk. And like, I don't have gallons of milk. Like, there's something wrong with me, and just, yeah, it's hard not to compare yourself with something like social media and
Right.
being like, "Ah, there's something, it's me, right? I'm the problem." Like, and
Feel like sometimes
uh,
we can be our worst critic.
mhm,
So this is where someone like me, a lactation consultant, can help you kind
mhm,
of any challenges that you might be facing with helping you reach your goals, however that may look like. Because the thing is, when it comes to lactation, it's not one way or the
mhm.
highway. There's really options. And there are ways to help meet you where you're at. And it doesn't look black or white. It's really individual. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the one of the first times my husband, I was like struggling with latching, and my husband was like, "You want me to prepare a bottle, right? Like a formula." And to me, that was like I felt so jabbed. I felt like it was an attack. And I remember being like, "No, I'm gonna figure it out," because I was associating a lot of guilt with like, if I give my baby formula, then I'm not doing a good job. And it took a while for me to finally get comfortable with formula. And then like I had to think like a few years from now, is my daughter gonna look back and be like, you gave me formula when I was, they no. And when I look back in this moment, I'm like, the things I'm gonna regret, it's not, oh, I gave her formula. It's, oh, I was too busy. I didn't spend time with her. But in that moment, you feel like formula equals failure. And it's like, who told us that? Like,
Yeah.
why
I
did
think
we?
I think it goes back to the pressures and the societal
Mhm.
norms, but even then, it's a lot. It can be very complex for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I appreciate the support that you give out. So I guess related to that, what do you love most about what you do as a lactation consultant?
Yeah, I really love being able to meet families where they're at and helping them with their own feeding goals. Because, like I mentioned, when it comes to lactation, it's not black or white. It's very individual, and it looks different for every family. It can look different for one of your children and a different child. So I love being able to help families support their feeding journeys, again, however that may look like. I think the challenges that I faced with my daughter made me, again, so much more passionate about helping families. I've worked in the past with nonprofits. I've worked with a hospital, and I just felt like I was working more for them and more for their policies. And having my own private practice, it just gives me that freedom to really help you. Like, I'm here to support you where you're at. So I just feel blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I guess related to the work you do too, what do you wish every parent in this postpartum season knew about like feeding and lactation?
Yeah, I think it goes back to feeding is not one way or the highway. It's not either you just breastfeed or you just formula feed. There's different ways for you to be successful. I think the definition of successful is very unique to you and to what works best for you and your family, and not what works best for someone else. So, don't compare yourself. Your journey is yours, and there's definitely help out there.
Awesome. Awesome. And then if somebody is either hoping to be in touch with a lactation consultant yourself or someone else, can you just share a little bit about how people can do that?
Yeah. So, for me personally, you can always just send a text or a phone call. And or you can send me an email. I'm also on social media at the Milky Road Lactation. But for lactation consultants specifically, if you have like PPO insurance, for example, you can go on a website called the Lactation Network, and put your information there and see if your insurance qualifies you for a consult coverage. Here in the San Diego area, there's also a list of resources from the San Diego County Breastfeeding Coalition. They have a really nice resource guide with a lot of information there on different lactation consultants, depending on where you live. But yeah, for me specifically, feel free to always send a text message. You can call me. My phone number is 619-324-9846, or send me an email at help@themilkyroadlactation.com, or find me on social media.
Awesome. And then I think related to that, I know that there are support groups too, right? How do you, or what would you say to someone who is considering going to like a lactation or feeding support group, and they're just not sure?
Yeah, I think sometimes it could be a little bit scary, especially if it's your first time, or feel a little bit overwhelming to get out of the house. But I think I would encourage you to try to do it at least once. You don't know what you don't know, and sometimes it's just nice to get out of the house for a little bit, socialize for a little bit. So if you're on the fence about it, I would say try it out, give it a try. Yeah.
Thank you. And then just to wrap up, are there any last words of encouragement or wisdom that you wanted to share with anybody?
I would say there ask for help if you're facing some feeding challenges, there is help. Reach out for help, and please, I know this is hard, but please try not to compare yourself to what you see on social media. Not everything, a vast majority of what's on social media is just not realistic for the majority of us. And yeah, don't compare yourself, and I know that's easier said than done. All those posts you see about supplements and like what a supply is supposed to look like, they're not realistic for a lot of us. And so yeah, that would be one of my tips. Don't compare yourself.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because I do think that we live in a society of like capitalism and consumerism, and you think that buying this pill or these special products will bring you happiness, and it's like, okay, whose happiness are we chasing? Maybe for
Right,
us, right? Like maybe that's not
right.
the best answer for us.
I think, yeah, if you're experiencing any kind of feeding challenge, my advice to you would be get some help from a lactation consultant. We don't just help with just latching. There are many things that we can help with. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And you said like up to introducing foods, you said you also support
oh,
with, or
so even if like your baby's 2 years old and you're wanting to wean from breastfeeding or wean from pumping, we can help with that too. If you're only, let's say, formula feeding and you want to get advice on how to wean your baby from the bottle, we can help you with that too. So we help with any kind of feeding, lactation related issues or non-lactation related issues like weaning from the bottle, formula feeding, how to wean from volume of milk. We help with all of that. So
that's
uh,
awesome.
for newborns, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's amazing. I know that I'm really like passionate nowadays of like helping people see who could be part of the village, because back in the day, or even like back in the pueblos that my mom grew up in, where there was a doña, there was another lady that was like, here's how you do it, mija, or whatever. You know, there was not ancestors, it was like elders who were able to come and teach us or support us. And we do live in a society that is a little bit more individualistic, and we don't have 3 generations living in a house anymore. So people like you can be part of like our village, and so I think that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so thank you so much for allowing me to kind of share what we do, because I think it's a common belief that lactation consultants only help with just latching, or that we only help for newborns, and
Mhm.
no, a good amount more.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. We appreciate your time, and thank you for everything that you do. I'll make sure to share your contact and link with people in the comments.
Perfect. All right, thank you so much, Joanna.
Thank you. Bye bye.